Hi, Real Writers. It's Chris here with your September 2018 Tarot for Writers reading. And this is for any writer, fiction, nonfiction, creative nonfiction, poetry, playwriting, songs, essays, whatever. I'm using a new deck. Well, first I want to say I'm sorry about how late I'm posting this. It's been a crazy month for me. I did a lot of smudging and I did a lot of card work with myself before I did this reading because there's just a lot going on with me and I didn't want that to color this reading. So that's also why I'm late doing this. Normally I would prefer to do this earlier in the month rather than the middle of the month, but I'm glad to find time to do this at all this month with all the big life changes going on for me. So I did a lot of smudging before. I used some sage and I used some Palo Santo, which smells really, really good. So let's do a little bit of that again because it smells so good before I did the cards. In case you need some, let's do this. In case you need some positive energy and some clearing, here's a little bit for you as well with the Palo Santo. And I'm going to leave that over here. So you may see a little bit of more smoke waft through. I have a candle going over here, which is why there's some light flickering. But I have a new deck. It's the Chrysalis Tarot. And there's a huge book that came with it as well. No, not huge, but a good sized book that came with it as well. But I just have the little booklet here with me since it's totally new to me. But I loved the imagery and the fact that it uses all different kinds of mythology. As writers, I think that we can all appreciate that and that it's a fantastic way to create metaphor and symbols and structure in stories and poems, etc., and often are very inspiring and enlightening. So I wanted to use this deck, and I might use it for a while. I still love my Ethereal Visions Illuminated deck. I really love that one. This is almost the complete opposite. It is more colorful, it has more detail, and so it's kind of, these are sort of two opposite ends of the spectrum for me. And today I'm feeling like I need more color and intensity, not in a bad way, intensity, but a more in-depth sort of imaginative interpretation of the cards. Sometimes in the other cards there are details that are normally in the traditional tarot that are not in that card. And sometimes I'm okay with that, and sometimes I get frustrated with that. So this time I'm just going to work with these. These, however, are also different from traditional tarot. They have their own system. They use different things. They use, instead of the pentacles, etc., they're using scrolls, spirals, mirrors, and stones. Instead of pentacles, wands, swords, and what is the one I'm always, cups, always forgetting. So those don't correspond in any order the way I just said them, but I just really personally, I think scrolls, spirals, stones, and mirrors are all fantastic symbols and metaphors that we can use in our writing, and that might speak to us more than pentacles, cups, swords, and wands. Not that those aren't good as well, but you know, if you dabble in the tarot at all, you're very used to that, and this is a fresh perspective and a fresh take, and I find that really cool and exciting and interesting. So what this deck encourages is using your own imagination to interpret them. You can certainly read the booklet, and I will touch on the booklet a little bit, and but the book itself talks about, yes, you can learn this system, but also this is sort of more of a doorway into your own imagination. So I love that. So I decided, since I've just gotten these this week, and I haven't really looked much at the booklet or the book, I would just do the reading with this deck as is and see what comes up. Full disclosure, that's a little scary for me since I have been working with tarot for as long as I can remember. I mean, maybe not as a child, but as a teenager. And so I have perhaps some worries about not providing you with that traditional sense of the reading that you may be wanting. And so I hope that's okay. I hope you'll open your mind and heart to whatever comes up. And if it doesn't work for you and it doesn't resonate, that's cool. No worries. Maybe go back to one of my other readings that you can read them anytime, or you can use them anytime and pull a card there if you haven't done that already. So that's a way long intro. Sorry about that. Let's go to the reading. I'm just going to ask you to pick card 1, 2, or 3. Whatever calls to you. You might consider using your birth month, your birthday, a number you've been seeing quite often. Like, for example, if you've been seeing the number 11 a lot, you could pick 1, or you could pick 2, because 11, if you add the ones together, they equal 2. Maybe you might use your home address, or, I don't know, a number that your life path number, your destiny number, whatever you want to use, or just pick a random number. It just doesn't matter, but those will give you some ideas about numbers you can use to guide you if you like. So let's start with card number 1. Okay. Okay. Well, we're off to we're off with a bang to this with with this reading. I also wanted to mention that I forgot to say that the Chrysalis deck does not use reversals. So if a card comes up reversed, I will be putting it right side up. Wow. So Callie is standing in for the Tower here, and Callie is the Destroyer. So this is an appropriate card to have. I'm sorry, I'm just laughing because that is just too funny. I think that's a really great way to do the Tower. I know Callie, but I'm not great with her particular story mythology. So I'm just going to read what she is from the booklet. Callie personifies the cleansing energy of creative destruction as she restores balance to your life. This card indicates you may be stubbornly clinging to something or someone, a mindset or a worldview that is incompatible with your quest for self-fulfillment. Your challenge is to deconstruct this physical or mental architecture, whatever it may be, and move forward. Well, you know where I'm going with this. As writers, we often hang on to things in our stories and our poems and our essays that we think are fantastic, but really don't serve the story at all. It may be the original idea you had that upon executing it, ooh, there you go, there's a little pun there, executing. Upon completing the work, the idea has completely changed into something different, perhaps better or worse. In the end, maybe you wrote something that didn't at all resemble your original idea, and you strayed too far from the path and wrote something else that was either more successful or not as successful. And so this can be a call to take a step back and take a more objective look at the work. Have somebody look at it. This can be a critique group partner. This can be a professor. If you had an MFA, you went through an MFA program and you're close to a professor, ask them to take a look at it. Not all of it, maybe just the first 100 pages if they feel like they don't have a lot of time. You can pretty much tell a lot from the first 50 to 100 pages of a book and if it's on the right track or not. Some people like to say that you should look at page 70 or page 90 and see where you are in that book, and if that page isn't saying something, really engaging, and it's not a key moment of the book or part of a key moment of the book, and the book is sort of drifting along, not going anywhere, and or by page 70 or 90, nothing is really happening. Like, you still haven't gotten to the core of the idea, and I don't mean the climactic moment, I mean it's still not clear what the character wants, what the conflicts are, who the antagonist is, what the inciting incident of the book is, what the first major plot point is. I'm using fiction because it's sometimes easier in terms of structure. But if it's not clear by then you take another look. It might mean you need to completely break this book down completely, like take it completely apart. And I have done this. I wrote a novel in grad school that by the end of it, I was around almost 600 pages. After grad school, I completed it. I was working on it during grad school. And at the end of the the time in grad school, the last thing I turned in, somebody said in the group, it was around page 250, they said, "Oh, this is really the start of your book." And I just didn't listen. I was like, what? No way. 250 pages? I have to ditch 250 pages? I'm willing to ditch 50, but 250 and start from here? Forget it. You don't know what you're talking about, you know. Excuse me. Well, they did know what they were talking about, because 2 years later, I'd finally finished it. It was almost 600 pages, and I realized they were totally right, and I actually trashed... I didn't trash all of those 250. I might have kept some of them, but in terms of the book as a whole, I saved about 100 pages of that 581-page monstrosity, and I killed off characters, I blended other characters, I eliminated a lot of things, and I rewrote it, and it ended up being like 250 pages, or 230 or something like that. And so, and a much better, clearer book. I mean, sometimes, you know, when you write something the first time, you have to throw everything in, because you're exploring, you're trying things, you're wandering down side roads, because you want to see what's going to happen. That's exactly right. You should absolutely do that. That is the right thing to do. Because if you don't see where things lead, you're not taking opportunities as they come up. But it does mean that the book you started with is not going to necessarily be the book you ended up with in those first few drafts. So you have to be willing to take it completely apart and kill off people, blend other people together. You know, don't allow the idea of how much work it's going to be, or how much time it's going to take, or how you thought you were going to be able to submit it now, and there's a contest coming up in a week that you really want to submit to, and you're just going to... No, this card is saying no. So take that to heart and consider, you know, take a few deep breaths, because I know that's a lot to take in. Boy, I really do understand that horrible pit in the stomach sinking feeling of, oh my God, really? But, you know, first off, have a few people read it. If you can afford an editor, ask an editor to just do a read and critique. You do not need a developmental edit. You do not need a full-on edit. Don't waste your money with that. Just have somebody do a read and critique if you want an objective professional who does not know you. That's really your best bet in the end. But if you don't have enough money for that, then go to a critique group person, you know, someone you're in a writing group with, or maybe someone you knew from your MFA program or whatever, if you did that, a professor, or just a friend you know who's an avid reader, knowing that if you choose the latter, you're probably going to be getting an opinion from someone who's just going to talk about story and what they liked and didn't like, and they, you know, they might be savvy enough to talk some elements of craft, but not as much as someone who is steeped in that, who is also a writer and who has, you know, either some formal training or has done a lot of workshops or been mentored or done a lot of reading, extensive reading, because you don't have to have an MFA to have that training, but done a lot of extensive reading and been workshopped, and maybe even as a published author. So just, you know, be aware of what level of feedback you're going to get based on who you choose. So checking back to the booklet, because of some of this symbolism, the skulls, which are positive symbols, these are skulls here, a string of skulls. These are positive symbols signifying transition to an evolved state of being. And I'm going to just, you know, do my own little thing here and say that, to me, based on what I just said, these skulls could be that you need to kill off some characters or get rid of some characters or reimagine some characters. You know, kill them off and resurrect or revive them in a new form. Maybe you have literally 5 characters that could be one character. Or you just, you know, you could have too many points of view as well. I've heard from many agents that 5 is kind of the maximum point of view. Points of view they feel like readers can handle. Too many, and you won't spend enough time on their narrative arc. You won't get to know them well enough. And if you have 2, even more than one of them, like 2 or 3 that don't have strong enough storylines, then they become a drag on the story and people skip them and go to the other characters they want to read about. I had that recently with a book. I bought a book that only talked about one character on the back, and then I opened it, and then 20 pages in, she disappears, and we have 60 pages of at least 10 other people, which was crazy. And I finished it because I liked her, and I liked the idea of the book. but it was really frustrating and kind of pissed me off. So there's nothing like buying a book that says it's one thing and you find out it's another, and you have to follow all these people that you don't care about because the writer thought that would be a better way of telling the story, but it's not necessarily true. And that's the trend. Oh my God, every book I pick up seems to have multiple characters, epic storylines through centuries, and it's just, everyone's afraid to just tell one story from one person's perspective in one place and time. Epic may mean big, but it doesn't always mean good or better. So, at least in my opinion, I don't know that, I think not a lot of people can pull that off. So, what else with this card? It may mean also, there are 4 hands here. It may mean there are too many people involved. Oh, that's what I'm getting. Maybe you wrote this story and you had, or again, this could be essays. This could be, think structurally about your essays, your poetry, whatever it is. You still have to get to the core idea in any of these works and set up tension. Too many, all the skulls here can mean there may be too much clutter in another way, too many adjectives, too many conflicting metaphors, too many ideas, and you need to break it down and get back to the root idea that birthed this piece, whatever it is, poem or whatever. Get back to the root idea, the core idea. And it may mean by all these hands that there were too many people involved in this process. Maybe you workshopped this, or you've had too many editors look at it because you didn't get the answer you wanted from the first one and you tried another. That can happen. But if you're doing it because you want someone to be a yes person, that's not a good reason to use an editor, because they're not going to do that for you. It may mean that you've used one editor too many times and they can't see the piece anymore. The number of times I think an editor can work on a piece personally is a maximum of 3 times, because at some point, if the book hasn't changed in a significant way or the piece hasn't changed in a significant way, we can't see it anymore because we've read it so many times and we already know what's happening. We've been through it so many times. We sort of anticipate what's coming and we start to miss things. We're human. We don't have superpowers in that respect. We are going to end up possibly missing things because we've read something too many times. So I will tell people that, the maximum number of times I will read something is 3, and then it needs to change significantly each time in order for me to do that. I'm happy to do a follow-up a second reading, but the third time I always warn people, because I may still say the same thing and they need to be prepared for that. And I do put that in the contract to make sure it's clear. And sometimes it does take 3 times for a writer to get it. I know that sometimes happens to me too. I'm a writer, so sometimes we just need to be told something multiple times to make our peace with it. And also advice can evolve over time as the piece evolves. But it may be there are too many hands involved here, too many people involved, too many opinions in your critique group, too many dissenting or conflicting opinions in terms of beta readers. And you are the one that needs to take charge here. Use your intuition, go back to the root, take it apart in whatever way you need to get back to the story that you wanted to tell. Now, that said, in your poem or your essay or whatever, it can also mean that the story that you're telling, the poem that you wrote, even if it is completely different from the root that you started with, you could go with that too. It's totally fine. If that becomes the new root or the new core and you're okay with that, then great, go from there. But you still need to revise and get the book into, make it more clear and make it realize its potential. And focus more on your own intuition and your own opinion and your own goals. So that's what I'm getting from the Tower, from Callie the Tower. So let's turn that around, because I keep forgetting to turn these cards around after I finish reading them. So the 7 of Spirals. That's a bear, in case you can't see it very well. That's a bear peeking out of its cave. just broken through there. Whenever these spirals, I love the look of them, but at the same time, it kind of makes me feel like I don't know, like a kind of sense of dizziness, or it can also mean spiraling in on oneself, which is appropriate for a bear in hibernation. It could mean there's too much going on, making one's head spin as well. There might be too much going on in your life. There might be too many things coming at you, and you can't figure out what to do first. You can't figure out what's most important. Too many intrusions, too many people making demands of you. So what I'm getting from this card is that the bear is you as a writer trying to finish your project, trying to focus on your project, whatever that is. May not necessarily be to finish it, because I don't know where you all are in your projects, obviously. I'm sure the goal is to finish it, but sometimes we're just trying to take time away from life in order to make some headway. Headway. And that may mean getting through the next chapter, or 5 poems, or 1 essay, or a couple of songs, or 1 10-minute play, or whatever. Getting through a first draft, or a revision, or whatever it is. So it may mean that it feels like this is you trying to get this done, and things are coming at you. Too many things are coming at you, trying to pull you out of the cave, pull you away from the project. And this is you sticking your head out to say, fuck off, in a nice way. I hear you. I know you need stuff, but this is what I need. I certainly care about you. I need more time. Please respect this boundary. Please respect this boundary in my time away, because I need this and I'm not ready to come out yet. That's what it's saying to me. To sort of stand your ground and hold on to your boundary, and don't let other people call you away from whatever this time, whether it's a day or a weekend or a week or a month. Maybe you're on a retreat somewhere and you keep getting texts from the kids about when are you coming home, and your husband's like, where did you put the whatever, and or your roommate's like, I don't know, the toilet's broken, and who's that plumber you called last time, and I don't know, whatever it is. Or work is saying, we've had a crisis, can you come back early, or can you just call this person, or whatever it is. Or it could be you too, you feeling this pull that isn't actually there. It's just that you're so used to letting other people take you away from the things that you want to do, and you feel such a need to help other people, and because you love them, or you feel a sense of responsibility if it comes to work, or you may love what you do and you do miss your work, but you took this time for yourself if you're away, if you took some time away. And you could be feeling torn between between these two things, but you deserve this time. You deserve time away. You deserve a break. You deserve to take some time to work on the project, whatever it is, even if it's an afternoon to work on 1 poem or a song. You deserve that time. The world is not going to fall apart in your absence. People will figure things out, and even if they're annoyed with you, too bad. They're adults. If you have kids, well, I'm sure your husband or your partner or your wife or your parents or whoever's hanging out with those kids, your best friend might have taken them in, your neighbor, whoever, they can handle it. Unless someone's in the hospital, don't worry about it. They'll be fine. They'll figure it out. It's important for you to take this time to do the thing that you love. It's that oxygen mask thing. Put yours on before you can help other people. Well, if you're a writer, whatever that looks like, poetry, essays, etc., this is your oxygen mask. Writing is your oxygen mask. It's the thing you need to do to be you. And you deserve the time to do that. It makes you happy. It makes you feel like yourself. It makes you feel grounded. It makes you feel inspired. It gives you the energy to give, to then direct outward to help other people and inspire other people. And by taking that time to do this for yourself, you are inspiring other people to do that for themselves and to promote self-care and to promote creativity. This sets, especially if you have kids, this sets a powerful example for children that adults are not just there to serve them, but they also are people who have lives, and that creativity is an important part of that. And even if you have a child that goes on to be an engineer or a doctor or whatever, creativity is a part of life. And they don't have to have a career, a creative career, although creativity is part of all careers in some way. Having a creative outlet, a creative, the word's coming to mind is enterprise, and I don't mean it like a business, but that could be part of it too. But having something that they do that's creative is an important part of, should be an important part of their lives in some way, whether they play the guitar however badly, or they like to draw, or they like to write, whatever it is, that helps people process the world and their lives and their emotions, and it's just, it's kind of, in a way, not just in a creative or imaginative outlet, but it can be a spiritual and emotional outlet that can be very important. So you're setting a good example. So you'll notice that these spirals are not actually inside the cave. They are outside. They're not inside. They haven't reached the inside. So the bear, you're keeping those at bay. And you can see this, well, maybe you can't, but it's kind of, there's a reddish, orange, yellow glow in here, kind of like there's a fire going on. So that's like, a creative fire happening in there. Fire is, it makes me think of the second chakra, which is orange, which is where creativity resides. So you got the creative fire and the spark going on in there, and you need to protect yourself and protect it and hold that time sacred. Or if you haven't taken this time, this is telling you you need to. It's been too long, or you're not taking enough of it, and try to set aside some time once a week or once a month for you to really dig in, so that you don't let your creative project, whatever it is, gather dust and reach a point where you go back to it and you don't feel that spark for it anymore. So that's what I'm getting from number 2. So let's go on to number 3. So this is interesting because it's kind of the opposite of the other card. It's out in the open, out in the sun, but there's still this stone. So this was spirals, but there were still rocks and stones here. So there's kind of a little bit of a through line there. Oops, now everything's falling apart. So this looks like, one of those sort of sacred stones, like a Stonehenge kind of thing, or the Rosetta Stone, in those circles that are found in circles in certain parts of the world. I'm thinking England and Ireland and Scotland, like the UK. It has a feeling of new beginnings here, and sort of mastery, and standing in the sun, not being one of a crowd, but reaching the pinnacle here. It's very, very positive. It feels like, reaching the top of a mountain, although this doesn't look like a mountain. It's like a green hill with all these plants and little stones and things like that. It's not really a mountain kind of thing, but it feels like, in a way, reaching the top of a mountain. So if you pick this card, this to me feels like the reaching of a goal in a very positive, successful way, reaching the pinnacle of, your gifts, or reaching, well, like I said, the goal. So if you are trying to publish something, or share something, or win a competition, or just even complete something, maybe you've been in the cave. I'll see, everything's gonna fall apart now. Because I have a little bit of a rickety setup here today. So maybe you've been in the cave, as in card number 2, and now you have reached your goal. You have attained the pinnacle of the completion of your project and its success after the time you took in the cave, the time you took for yourself in order to complete your project. So this is what can happen if you take the time, like in card number 2. Take the time to do the work. And this could be you, if you're still watching this and you picked a different card. Let me look at the booklet here. Yes. This is a very positive, affirming card, which indicates abundance. You can expect to attain your immediate goals with thoughtful planning and flexibility. So that's key. This doesn't just mean, hey, you win, congratulations. It entails work, thoughtful planning, flexibility. Flexibility means you have to find that time in your schedule to make these projects, to work on your project. It doesn't happen by magic. It does involve hard work, and it does involve taking time. You can certainly take long periods of time on retreat if that's possible. Great, awesome for you to complete something, but that's just the first phase. There are many phases to writing anything and putting it together in a collection, whether it's a CD or a collection of stories or poems or essays, or to publish things on a blog or whatever it is, a book. There are a lot of steps to it, stepping stones, haha. And, but you will, this card means you will succeed. You will have your moment in the sun. And it could be that you are, in keeping with what I said a little bit in the second card, you could be a role model for others by doing this work and reaching this goal. Because I'm seeing this sort of like as a beacon for others, a beacon on a hill for others, not just because of the light, but because of the stone itself. And a stone is, it's, as solid as it comes, It's not, this isn't some flimsy man-made object up here. This is a stone. It's grounded. It's solid. It took a long time to be created. So this to me also talks about the time it took to create this project you're working on, the hours you put in, the emotion you put in, the research you put in, the imaginative power and struggle you put in to build this solid, project, creation, whatever that is. So that's also what I'm getting from this card. And the fact that there's all this light and green, this just to me means that it's the real deal. And it's so interesting because, this was the first card if you didn't look at the first card. And so look at the difference between the beginning and the end of this reading. This is all falling apart. It's dark. It's night. It's moon. There are skulls. Everything's falling apart here. And then here we are, something solid, grounded, rooted in the way it should be, and in the sun. So if you are looking at this whole reading, if you've been watching the whole thing, and you wanted to watch the whole thing, that was your choice, then I'm going to say that the way to complete your project and to reach this goal is to take the damn thing apart, whatever it is you're working on. Go back to the roots. Take it apart. Don't let too many opinions get in the way. Get rid of anything you need to get rid of, whether it's killing off characters, getting rid of stanzas or images or whatever it is. Use your intuition. And to do that, take the time, take some retreat time, whatever that looks like, you know, an hour at work. See, there's a video on this channel about going to write in your car as a way of getting time away from everything, because cars are surprisingly quiet. Go sit in your car in your lunch hour and write. But take some time away. Get away from responsibilities and people that are taking you away, because the more you give to them, the more they're going to take. And I don't mean that in a negative way, but the more you're available to people, the more they expect you to be available. So if you want to find time and you don't always want to be the person everyone calls on, or be the person everyone wants to call on and does call on, you need to start backing up and saying no and taking time for yourself. And if it's a habit that you get into, even for yourself, to just answer that call, and it becomes like an endorphin rush or a hit of energy that you get when you do it. But really what you're doing is focusing on everyone else but yourself. And you're never going to have that time, because they're just going to keep coming to you. So you need to break that habit. It's a habit you've gotten into, and you've trained them to get in that habit. So take that time away. And maybe it might not be that extreme, you know. It may just be that you just need time away, and there are too many things taking your attention away, and they may be totally legitimate, but you need to put some time into your calendar to get away for a few days or spend a weekend or whatever it is working on your project. And if you put in that time and you put in that focus and you set boundaries and you keep them so that you can keep that time and focus, this is what can happen. So to me, you know, if you've picked this whole reading as your reading, this is really positive and a very clear message about what needs to be done, and a pretty basic message about what needs to be done. This isn't rocket science here. This is often just what needs to be done to finish a project and to have it succeed. So I hope that was helpful. I love these cards. I'm going to use them for a while. And as I get to know them, I'll share more about their message and their system. There are archetypes in these cards instead of the court cards. And it's interesting that we didn't get the scrolls as a suit here. But to me, the scrolls, I'm just feeling like the scrolls, SCROLLS, are the archetype for writers. So we'll see when they come up and how they come up, and what kind of reading how that lends itself to the reading or colors the reading when that suit comes up. So I hope you have a great September. I hope you get some time to write. And if you have any questions or comments, please put them below. Please like and subscribe and share so that others can find this channel. I'm really enjoying doing this, and I'm trying to put in other videos about fun, bizarre things that strike my fancy. I found a butterfly the other day, a whole butterfly, perfectly shaped, in the parking lot of my work, and I gave it a burial at sea when I was on a writing retreat at my sister's house on the Eastern Shore a couple of weeks ago, and I filmed that burial at sea with the butterfly. And it's actually this very nice, quiet, meditative video for about 3 minutes, but I'm trying to put in little things that might inspire you to take a writing break and to write about, in case you're stumped for ideas for things to write about right now. So that's it. I hope this helped. I'll be back soon with another writing break video, and I'll see you in October for the October Tarot for Writers reading. Happy writing!